All right, let's try this again. I've moved from my desk over in the corner to my couch because it is unfortunately the cleanest part of my apartment, which really isn't my fault. I'm like not super lazy. I just have a walking, talking, very cute hurricane, and yeah. Also, as you can clearly tell, I'm still using natural lighting as my light source because I'm still broke. All right, let's get into it. I'm reviving this dead horse because I'm a masochist. And because reels are no longer fun for me. I used to do them at least once or twice a week, and I just had a lot of fun putting myself into pools of water or putting watches on melons, but not anymore. So my family motto is, don't quote me on this, don't force a fart. And what that means, other than illustrating that I have a 5-year-old's level of humor, is that I don't want to present you guys with subpar stuff that I don't find 100% hilarious. My personal, barometer of hilarious. Because at the end of the day, I'm a man of the people. And those sweet, sweet affirmative internet points. Anyway, here's me doing my bread butter and strawberry jam. Because anybody that tells you that anything other than strawberry jam is the preferred jam on toast is wrong, and you shouldn't trust them at all. Okay, so I'm not so good at the traditional watch compositions. I'm talking like flat lays, EDCs, watches with magazines, perfect lighting, all the knickknacks that go around it, the coffee, the whiskey shots, even the wrist shots. If you've been on my account, you will see that my wrist shots are subpar. And that's not me just being like, oh, poo-poo. No, they're quite literally poo-poo. So when I do my watch photography, I have to be a lot more literal and kind of tell a story through context. So I got my one shot of my primary watch shot, and then I've got my context shots, which are generally street photography, landscape photography, or basically anything else that helps tell the story, which I know sounds artsy to a lot of you, and maybe it is. But basically me covering those compositional gaps is just throwing whatever else is in the scene around the watch or that I think will help tell a story in there. And sometimes that means I'll throw a lot of bokeh in it because bokeh just looks nice, and I do it. I blur everything to extinction. It's a lifestyle choice. But I am actually working on not using so much bokeh so you can actually see what's going on behind the watch and get a better idea of what I was trying to go for, or the mood I was trying to set. And even now, as I'm doing this travel watch photography, I'm constantly learning and growing to the point where I know that I can't just have one primary shot. I have to have the establishing shot, the close-up shot, the context shot. So moving forward after this recent set of shots and travels, I will be adding more watch shots. It's definitely a problem. When I went to Lisbon, I did more street photography than watch photography. But can you blame me? This place is freaking beautiful, okay? Just let me have it. For the past 2 weeks and change, I've had the pleasure of being loaned these two watches by Nomos, the Nomos Tetra and the Nomos Autobahn, which are two of my favorite watches. The Tetra was already one of my favorite watches before. Something about those square dials just gets me, man. The Autobahn is a completely unique watch. It still has the Nomos spirit, but it is definitely a very distinct timepiece that I came across. So again, thank you Nomos for the loaners. I definitely got as much out of them as I could, and will now be adding them to my watch list. So my wallet hates you. So I got to take both watches with me to Lisbon and to one other place that I will show in a couple upcoming videos. And honestly, it was the most fun I could have had. Unfortunately, I'm kind of new to this whole videography thing, so some of my footage from my GoPro that I recently purchased didn't want to export properly. If somebody could help me out in the comments, because I Googled for a couple of hours and just couldn't come up with anything, that would be super helpful so it doesn't happen again. But I scrounged what I could, and this is pretty much me walking around the streets of Lisbon. So what I learned from this trip is to never trust weather reports, because before I flew into Lisbon, it was supposed to be completely rainy and overcast the entire time I was there, to the point where I literally questioned my wife up to the last hour, being like, should I even go? Is it even worth it? But ultimately, I did go. And when I got there, it it was a little bit rainy. But ultimately, it kind of did this weird, like, kind of overcast, not overcast, you catch it or you miss it kind of thing going on. So I was definitely lucky to catch those patches of sunlight at golden hour on those few days that I was there. So I just walked around the streets of Lisbon looking for spots, doing street photography and watch photography, just basically fusing both of those kind of styles to find something very unique and interesting. Now again, I'm literally putting watches down on things, so you definitely can't take anything I say seriously. And at the end of the day, one of the core principles for this channel and for my Instagram account is to not take watch photography too seriously. So like literally, the other core principle is find somewhere where a watch absolutely doesn't belong, and possibly the rare spot, like finding spots that watches have not touched ever in their possible like thousands of years of history. And yeah, you might be rolling your eyes and being like, why would you ruin a great piece of history? Why am I enhancing a great piece of history with great horology? Why don't you ask that question? So I'm walking up the semi-steep streets of Lisbon, and there are lots of colorful places, colorful doors, and off to my right, I see this colorful bird or kind of lighting in this window, and I take it as kind of a warm-up shot, because when I do photography, I need a couple of minutes or a couple of shots to really like get into the groove of what I'm trying to do for the day. And it's because I get to slow down in this moment and in other moments that I can take more detailed pictures, or like pretty much just stop and smell the roses. So I'm taking pictures of awesome streets that I think have great lighting, and I'm walking up this particular hill and I see the rails. Now the rails and the streetcars are everywhere in Lisbon. They're notable. You can see them in pretty much any Lisbon street photography or regular photography or any tourist photography based in Lisbon, because they're kind of iconic. For me, I do take a lot of rail shots, even in Berlin, because I just can't get enough rail shots. So I thought, why not do one for Lisbon? Why not just... So I squatted down and, well, my settings were okay and took the shot. Also, a car almost legitimately hit me on this one, and the shop that I took a picture of, there was definitely the owner kind of like peeking around the corner thinking, what the hell is this guy doing? So I continue walking around the streets of Lisbon. I see this red door with this yellow house. It's got a Ronald McDonald thing going on, but seriously, I see this door and this building, and it definitely has some vibrant colors that I just want to capture for myself, and then see if I can work something in later on, which, thank goodness, I did. But obviously first I had to get some golden hour goodness with the clouds and the street and the colors and somebody walking right in the frame. It was just the perfect moment. Of course, seconds later, I did actually get to use that red and yellow building to my advantage and got my shot of the Tetra. Why did I take this shot? I mean, I don't know a lot about color theory, but I think red, yellow, and blue kind of go together. And if they don't, you can tell me in the comments, but it looked nice to me. And like I told you before, love streetcars, love rails, love everything about Lisbon, to the point where I took a lot of street photography. So of course I had to squat down and get a couple streetcar shots for this one. Here my thought was to just keep going as high as possible to get the best possible vantage point of golden hour in Lisbon. But of course I had to stop to take pictures of oranges and trees because Charles needs his vitamin C. Unfortunately, after the orange shot, my footage just didn't want to comply with me. So that's pretty much it for this kind of walk along, walk beside, walk above. You're basically omniscient and omnipotent for me doing this kind of travel along watch photography. Don't let the power go to your head. Okay, and that's pretty much all you're going to be getting these days from this channel, at least this new venture into travel watch photography, which is air quotes, asterisks, whatever you want to put on it. And since the key word in travel watch photography is travel and watch and photography, I'll be moving around a lot these days. That's not to say I'm going to be traveling every other week with new watches or whatever, because as I mentioned before, I'm broke.